Hearing you describe the suspension of time in music brings to mind like musical mobiles, kind of
Hmm.
that idea. I mean, I would imagine that this philosophy in your work could invite some really interesting metric possibilities.
Hmm.
I mean, in those moments, do you think about music in a modular fashion, or do you literally suspend time in that there is no meter? Kind of talking about the nuts and bolts of things now, but
Yeah, totally.
it's fascinating to me.
So for this newest piece that I just mentioned, Sosh, during the section where the text talks about like when this something is emerging, right? Like before we know what it is, I did initially have like boxes and like
Yeah.
give the players the freedom to do a bit of improvisation. However, I ended up actually discarding that, and I stuck with time signatures. I initially didn't want, the music to reflect the meaning of the text, but musically, yeah, I ended up being more conservative, which was a little bit of a letdown in a way. But I think, there's this part of me that wants to convey an idea in many different ways, but then there's also part of me that likes to have control, and so I think that in the end sort of won. But I might revisit that idea maybe in a different movement.
And of course, there's the practical question of
Yes,
can
practical.
this be conveyed in standard notation? And if
Mm-hmm.
so, why not? Why
Yeah,
not just do that anyway?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what is a piece of music or a song, a book, a piece of art, any kind of artistic artifact that has had like a profound impact on your work, maybe changed the way you thought about your creative practice, maybe even changed your life?
Well, I think that string quartet by Joshua Hay actually was a piece that I always go back to, and the one that made me kind of think about music differently. It's called Lens from Alpha Centauri. It's been a piece that I've liked, for many, many years. I think especially like the first few years, I was really struck by it. I think maybe more recently, I mean, this piece I also have known for a while, but let me tell you, I think it's also about time, very much so. And the text is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I go through different phases too. I mean, I go through phases when I don't listen to a lot of contemporary music, and I listen to a lot of jazz. Like the past few months, I've been listening to more jazz. I don't know if it changes how I compose. I don't think so,
Yeah.
but it's definitely challenged me in having. So I started taking jazz piano lessons actually the past half a year or so, and something I've always wanted to do, and it's been really ear opening
Yeah.
to study it, because I feel like, I mean, jazz is such a difficult genre, and I have so much respect for jazz musicians for being able to improvise within some given constraints, right, and still be so creative with it. I think that's something that classical musicians don't have to deal with at all. Like it's a very, very different way of making music.
I feel like jazz should be more a part of our education, actually, for that
Yeah,
reason.
yeah,
Because it
yeah.
seems like it's always so compartmentalized. Like, here's classical music, here's jazz, and then contemporary classical music falls under classical music. But obviously, there can be like a ton of overlap.
But it's just such a different way of thinking about music too, which I think is almost the opposite of, as classical musicians, we are refining every single note, but in jazz, it's a bit different, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a jazz pianist, but I think they spent time practicing improvisation, practicing playing in different modes, doing like being very creative within the constraints that are given by the tune.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.